You're listening to the Working It Out podcast, part of the Humans of Hit network. I'm Alex, and I'm here to look into what inspires those we look to for motivation. I want to understand their real relationship with physical activity and the barriers they've had to break through to be happy, but also successful. On today's episode, I've got Sky One's Got to Dance winner and the Untitled Dance Company director, Lukas McFarlane. We spoke about his perseverance to get to the top through many injuries and the people around him who had an impact. We also looked into the stigma for boys in dance and the impact that had had on his career. I left feeling like we could be best mates, and I think you will too. Welcome to the podcast, Lukas McFarlane.
Yay, thanks so much for having me. So excited to be here.
Thank you very much. How are you doing today?
I'm good. One day at a time through all this COVID crazy, right? But I'm good.
Yeah, I totally get you. For those who are listening, it took us about 15 minutes to set this up because of COVID. So we are definitely feeling it Callum, who organises this, would be able to have it in 2 minutes. So yeah, it's step by step, exactly. Day by day. So we've got the first question, which we've asked everyone, is about the Humans of Hit community. Welcome to it. You're now part of it. By doing the podcast, you're in. There's no charge. You're in for free. And
okay.
When everyone joins the community, we ask everyone on the podcast to bring one special item from their relationship with physical activity and working out, and bring it into the locker. We've got a big locker, so any one item that you can think of that relates to your relationship with physical activity, what would it be? Whilst you have a think,
okay.
We've had previous people on the podcast have said a fun pair of H&M socks that they did use at an event when they weren't supposed to. Someone from RuPaul's Drag Race said their jock strap during their drama school. So, someone said their pull-up bar. It could literally be anything. So yeah, what one item would you bring to the locker?
From my relationship with physical, I think I would bring. Does it have to be something physical? Because I would bring. Okay, so I think my first thought there was my tap shoes, because that's how I started dancing. So I would love to bring my tap shoes in the locker. If I was going to be more metaphorical, my perseverance. I would bring my perseverance into the locker for sure. That's
awesome. So we've definitely got two things there that we can look into, because that's why I like to say why those items. And so we'll start with the tap shoes. And then we're going to do we'll go over both of them, and we're going to do which one is it going to be at the end? Because no one said two before. And I've never met. So tap shoes. Let's talk about your tap shoes. What made you first think about those?
I mean, for me, my relationship with physical activity and dance in particular started with tap. And that was like my first love. I loved creating rhythms with my feet. It's what got me into all my different other styles. So tap has like a very special place in my heart, because it started this whole not only like hobby and kind of healthy exhibition of exercise through my life, but it's my job, it's my career, it's my everything. So those first pair of tap shoes were pretty darn important for me to start my life off, I think, when I was 6 years old.
That's awesome. So let's talk about that first experience of getting into tap. How did that come about? Was it something you saw, or did someone influence you?
It was. This is a funny story, but I grew up in Canada. I'm originally from Canada, and we grew up on a lot of country music. So I went to a Shania Twain concert when I was 6 years old with my parents, and she had tap dancers in her show that were dancing in water for one of her numbers. And apparently I turned to my mom and was like, I want to do that. I would like tap shoes, please. And so she put me in tap, and that's kind of how I started. I always moved. Amazing. Apparently she said I was always dancing, but that's like my first formal training was like Shania Twain got me into tap dancing.
Does she know? Have you managed to have that conversation?
She doesn't. No, I've never met her. I've seen her live a couple times, but I have yet to meet the person who started my dance journey. So maybe one day I'll share that story with her. That'd be great.
So when I release this podcast, I'm going to politely harass her to try and make her realize that this is the case, and see if I can do anything to
Do
help
it.
us both out with that one.
Do it.
So
I'm in.
that's so it's good that obviously music has a huge part is a huge part of dance, but was it music that brought you into was it music that really inspired you in terms of your family's relationship with it, or was it more just movement in general?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I've been told I have always been moving like my whole life, and I just was always loved dancing up and down aisles on tables, like for people. I always loved I guess the movement side of dance. And I think that came from like an expressive point for me. I think it
Mm.
was an outlet for me, and as I've gotten older, it's become definitely an outlet for me in so many ways. But even young, I think it was just an expression of passion and happiness and
Mm.
joy, and the way this music made me feel, and I think that's why I don't know I ended up exhibiting it through my body instead of through my mouth.
That's awesome, and it's really nice to be able to put something that you're so passionate about and make it into a profession. We're going to
Well,
definitely go into that in a bit more detail later, which is it's so cool when we're having these podcasts to talk to people who've gone, yeah, this is what I actually love, and it's weird. I'm doing it, and I'm getting paid for it, and
yeah, it's
it's
crazy.
fun, and yeah, so it's so good when like people like yourself are like just you seem so happy that it's your profession. So
It's
that's the one
crazy.
side. That's the tap shoes.
Hmm.
The other side, which links to our question number 2 quite nicely, because it's that was what one emotion links to your relationship with physical activity. So you said was it
Perfect.
perseverance?
Perseverance, 100%. I think this career choice of mine has been very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And it has taken a lot of drive and a lot of perseverance through a lot of things, and actually a lot through the physical side of dance being my job. I've had 4 knee repairs at 25 years
Oh
old. I
wow.
had my fourth knee surgery. So I've been through a lot of the physical obstacles of what I do as well, and persevered through them all. Like I had my first surgery when I was 14, so it was something very early on in my career as well, that even made me think maybe I can't do this as my career, you know. So yeah, perseverance is definitely the emotion I would say kind of describes my relationship with this. And I guess I would say the tap shoes are like I said that first because I know how much joy and how much happiness it has brought me, and maybe that's my like link to that in a metaphorical way, but it's definitely gone hand in hand with perseverance for sure.
That's awesome. So with the in terms of there's so much things we can go into with perseverance, and you've just touched on some really interesting topics about like injury and fighting throughout your career to get to where you are now. So and we have got so many questions about barriers to participation that are so
Good.
relatable. So what we're going to do at first is say what's the one item going to be, because we said we'll come back to that. So I've never thought of putting emotions into the locker, but we'll do. We'll do that. We'll allow that.
Let's do
So
something
out
different.
of
Let's put the emotion in. Let's put perseverance in. I'll give you a different 10 questions then. I'm sure it's the first time you've done it that way.
that's so good. So yeah, perseverance, Lukas McFarlane, that's in the locker. Cool. So
Let's do it.
when we open this locker at the end, we're gonna have pull up bar and perseverance, and I think yeah they go hand in hand together. So
And a jock
so
strap.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and a jog strap. If we put all of these on one person, it's going to be a funny image.
Exactly.
So oh, cool. So is your earliest memory of being physically active that at that 6 years old, or is it before that? Do you remember before that? Do you remember that phase of enjoying physical activity?
Um, I remember loving like performing. I loved like everyone watching me. I loved that part of it. And like dancing for anyone that would. My mom used to say she used to own a hair salon. She used to say I would like get up on like one of the hair salon chairs in front of the whole shop and like put on shows for everyone. And I loved like running around, and I remember like racing with all my cousins. We were of the playing outside generation, not the phone generation. So we
Mm.
did a lot of playing outside as well. So yeah, I don't know if it was earlier than 6 or around 6, but I think about that time. And I think I did a lot of physical activity, and then it kind of got pushed into this outlet of dance as I started getting more and more proficient at it, and it became more and more of the way I was spending my time.
So that leads sort of perfectly onto let's talk about your kind of the different stages of dance throughout. So first, obviously, six. Yes, this is for me. Tap is the way I'm going to go. Let's see what we can do with this. Let's just have fun with it. Was there a point when was the point? Because obviously there was you where you are now. When was the point where you're like, right, this is going to be a career pursuit?
Yeah, I mean, it took a while for me because where I'm from, I just had never seen it as something that was like a real job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did it because I loved it my whole life, and I did it very competitively from a very early age as well. I competed a lot
Mm-hmm.
in and around Canada and America, but I never saw it as going past like 18 and graduating and then doing a real job. In my head, I was like pediatrician or doctor or something. And then especially then I had my first surgery at 14, and I was like, okay, work. No, definitely, this is not something I'm going to make money doing because my body can't even get to 14 years old doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I was 16, a mentor of mine kind of asked me what I want to do, and I said like maybe a pediatrician or something like that, and he kind of really laughed in my face and was like, "You're gonna be a dancer." And this man is his name's Sean Cheeseman, and he's like worked with Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, like amazing people. He's had an amazing career, and for
Awesome.
him to say it so surely to me, "You will be this. This is your path," was the first time I saw it as something that I could do because he was so sure. So, okay, wait, I can do this for the rest of my life? Okay, well maybe maybe we should look more into that then because obviously I would love to if this is a possibility. And that was kind of the turning point for me in regards to okay, thinking past graduating and what was
Mm-hmm.
I going to do with it after.
So it was him who really was it more of an inspired, or like you said, it was like a reality check as well to be like, actually, no, I'm good enough. But it seems
Yeah.
like he had a huge impact on you in terms of check like flipping that switch into profession. Did it pretty much happen straight away, or did you from that conversation, or did it
Yeah,
take a bit of time to kind of get around and talk to your family and what happened
I
from
mean,
then?
I think for me, I it was so I had a teacher who's now one of my best friends who was assisting that choreographer, and then he was doing So You Think You Can Dance, the TV show in America and
Mm-hmm.
Canada, and he needed an assistant, and my teacher slash friend was like, you should use Lucas. He's really young, but he's like so good and all this stuff. So I kind of got exposed to this like TV land world of this and still as a competition show like I never
Mm-hmm.
really saw, but I saw dancers working and like making this a thing, and I was like and that's kind of where he had this conversation with me, and so did she. And it was after that that I kind of thought, okay, what do I want to do then? And naturally the kind of safe route is to go to a post-secondary education with this anything you do, even the arts, right? Because that's
Mm-hmm.
what everyone does. And so I kind of planned to go to school. I planned to apply. I flew around the US. I actually got accepted into Alvin Ailey in New York and NYU and all these places. Um, and then kind of the summer before I was supposed to go to school, I just woke up one morning and I was like, I do not want to be a ballet contemporary dancer. This is not the kind of dancer I want to be. My
Mm-hmm.
body is not built for that. I'm like built like a freaking football player. Like I'm not built nice and sinewy and long. I'm like thick and I got big legs. And I was like, this is not the kind of dancer I want to be, anyways. I want to dance behind artists. I want to work in television. So up until that point, the family was like, yes, dance, school, great, fine. And when I was like, I don't want to go to school, that was maybe a different conversation because it was like,
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe from a place of how do you do this then? How do you make dance your career? Like, what is the path for this? Because it's just not something that people do where I'm from.
Yeah.
Um, and that was kind of hard for them to wrap their head around. But my friend slash helper was, and Sean as well. They'd worked a lot in London, and they were like, "Yo, you should go to the UK because Canadians have a very easy first visa because we're Commonwealth." And you could build up a resume and you could work there. Nobody goes there. There's a great industry there. And then if you want to move to America, you can. Um, So that's what I told my parents I was doing. I had never been. I didn't know anybody there. It was across the world. But I'm going to move to London and be a dancer, mom and dad. So you can imagine their response to that.
We watch so many American like movies about how people move to New York and to be a dancer or an actor. This is like the flip, and we're moving to London to do it. So how did
Exactly.
the thing that would be really relatable for people to understand is moving to a completely new place, not really knowing any people, and living somewhere new. Because we like to talk about the barriers to sport being not what the actual activity is, but all the mini steps it takes to actually get there. So
Totally.
how did you feel moving to a new place, and did that impact your like emotions or your feelings towards your profession at all, and towards actually just being physically active?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting. There's a relationship with what I do and physical activity for sure because it's a physical activity, but the
Mm.
aesthetics of being physically active go hand in hand with commercial dancing as well. And there's this whole stereotype of what a dancer should look like attached to that as well. So I'm 18. I move across the world. Don't know anybody. I have fun. I'm in London. I put on like that. They call it the freshman 15 when you go to school, right? But I was just drinking. I mean, you have pub culture in the UK. There was pubs all the time, so there was a
Yeah,
lot of beer and stuff
everywhere.
like that. And taking class and stuff like that. But I was living my life away from home for the first time ever, and there was kind of this moment actually in audition that. I was told that I was very talented in the room. It's a very popular TV show, but
Mm.
that it was a shame I was too fat and I wasn't gonna be able to be on it. And that
Wow.
was like a huge reality check for me because I didn't feel unfit. Like I was fit, but not in the aesthetic way that people wanted me to
Mm.
be, which was a whole other thing with like physical activity and then your health and your eating and all that stuff. And uh, the good thing about moving away, we talk about little steps and leading to a goal, like was that I had no fallback. I had no backup plan.
Mm.
And I didn't have an education. I had a school education and I had only the money in my that I brought and I had to make it work. And that was really my reality in front of my face was like, Lucas, you don't have a choice but to make this work and be
Hmm.
successful. Um, and so I worked harder after that comment, and I went to the gym, and I ate better, and I stopped going to the pub, and I made that a focus, and it really did help with the career that I thought I wanted at that time, anyways. And that's when I started booking jobs, and it really did care. It did matter about how I looked and how physically in shape I was for my career as well.
So that's really interesting because that those kind of comments can really push a lot of people away, and especially at a lower level, they can really impact someone's mental
Oh yeah,
well-being.
oh yeah.
So I just yeah, it's quite interesting that how what would you do you feel like that's quite common and quite regular in your industry, and what's your
Yeah.
thoughts on people being having the ability to say that?
Well, unfortunately, yes, I do think it's quite common. And it is the reality of our industry, and we all talk, and it is changing from when I was doing it. Like, there's a lot of, but the other side of that is like now I think it's a fad to have lots of different body types, and it's not necessarily maybe for the right reasons. It's like, oh, it's in,
Mm.
we have to, but it's like, no, we should celebrate the normal person. The person on the couch wants to see themselves on screen, not the model. Because it's just unrelatable and it
Hmm.
makes you feel crap about yourself anyway, sitting on your couch. But it was the reality of what I was in. Um, I guess I talk about that word perseverance because I had to persevere through a lot of mental stuff too and deal
Mm.
with those people always telling me I was not enough. I was not good enough. I didn't look the right way. I wasn't tall enough. I didn't have a six pack. Oh, you can't do this, blah blah blah. Um, and I just had to kind of start judging my own journey based off of my own uh, checklist and my own
Mm.
moments of success for me in my eyes, and not the external validation, but the internal validation started becoming really, really, really
Yeah.
important. It was the only way to get ahead at that point, I think.
I think that shows just probably how mentally mentally strong you are, because that's a lot of a lot of things that can knock you back and knock a person back, and it sounds quite scary as well. So is there different types of coping mechanisms in terms of people or structures? Because I'm looking at, if someone's listening to this going, oh, yeah, I've been through something similar. Was there any people or structures that you put in place that really helped you get through that? You mentioned the checklist, and if that was your structure, could you give more information, if there was other people or other things that helped you? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of young people training programs, and I always tell my kids, like, especially with this career, if you love anything else, you should do that because you have to love
Mm.
this so much to enjoy the journey part of it because all the goals are they're salient reference points and none of them are absolute anyways. So they're all comparative
Mm.
and they change. And when you get to your goal that's going to make you happy, it never does. And you have a goal above it. So if you're not finding your way through this journey and enjoying the part of it that is making your way to those goals, then this isn't for you. And for me, I had to keep, I had to change judging how I was doing based off of what I was booking or how successful I was in the terms of a
Mm.
working dancer. And I came out of every audition and I went, Lucas, were you happy with how you danced? If the answer was yes, I didn't think about it. I never expected anything. I never expected to book anything. I never expected to be on this or that or do this. And not necessarily that I didn't want them, but I just didn't expect it. And if I was happy with how I performed, then that was enough for me. And if I wasn't, then good, you can do better next time, you know? But it was all based off of my own understanding of my growth and how I was doing. Um, and then when I
Mm.
started booking, like that was just a plus, you know, because yeah, sometimes there's things you can't control and you can be as physically fit as you want, but I'm will always be 5'9". I will never be 6 foot, you know, and like I don't
Mm.
have like I would have to do extreme dieting to be like that like swimmer's body. I'm just not built that way. And the sooner I could look in the mirror and just be happy with that and know that some jobs were not going to be for me, and trust that process and know that I was in this because I loved dance, the happier I got in my journey, you know, especially in the beginning when it was really, really hard in the beginning.
That's yeah. I think you've said so many things that are so relatable, and I totally agree that you need to be 100% positive and happy towards the things that your goals you're trying to achieve. And I think it really. But I was watching a few of your videos, well, quite a few of your videos to really understand you as well when you're performing and how you feel it. And even on even during the final, the video of you at the final of oh, sorry,
Got to dance.
got to dance. Skywise got to dance. I can't believe everything I've got in my head, and I was like, I've forgotten the one thing that I should remember the most. Um,
You're like, there's
so
8 shows. What show is it?
so so yeah, on the fun of that, the way you're smiling through the whole thing, like you can't hide it, and it's just like it seems like part of me is like, is this a performance or is this? It actually feels like your cheeks are going to be hurting at the end because you're loving the experience so much, and it seems so natural and great to see. It was really cool.
Thank you. I mean, that was an interesting one because I know which one you're talking about, and it was actually the year after I won, that I went back and I got to do a solo as the like previous winner, and on the show, it was a very different
Mm.
experience, and not that it wasn't positive, but I put a lot of pressure on myself. I mean,
Mm.
we could get into the whole reality show thing and the bubble, and it's a whole different conversation, but it's not normal, and it's not like anything you can
Mm.
explain, honestly. It's quite intense. Um, and then after I won the show that year, I actually had my third surgery, and I really thought I was done. So then a year later to be back on that stage, dancing, capable of actually outperforming what I did the year before, you know, on that
Mm.
stage as myself, like I could do nothing but smile. And they wanted me to do all these depressing songs, and I was like, nah, I'm celebrating this year because I'm known for like being emotional on stage and all this stuff. And I was like, and
Mm.
even the comments when I did it, people were like, oh, I miss him being sad. I miss him being emotional, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this wasn't for you. This was for me.
Mm.
And I wanted it to be for me because I probably will never get to do this again. perform on a stage of that size for that many people,
Mm.
and I'm going to take in every second of it because I've worked my butt off physically to be ready for this as well, you know? So this is my reward. And those 3 minutes are going to last for freaking ever.
And it really came across, honestly. I was like, this guy's loving
Thanks.
it. He's loving it. And yeah, it was really, really nice to see, as I said. And you got the standing ovation at the end from judges and everyone. And yeah, that was really cool. I was like, yeah. I could tell you just. But yeah, so that was awesome. So
Thank you.
we've
Thank you.
spoken loads about barriers to participation in sport, and it's a big part of what humans are fit and what we're trying to do, get more people physically active. And the first thing that you mentioned before was your injuries, and we've highlighted them throughout. And your first one at 14, and you said that was really tough. So can you give us a bit more information about how that
Yeah.
happened, and what was it like an accident, or was it overtraining, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so I have had meniscus tears in my knees my whole life, and part of it's hereditary, part of it's what I do. The human body should not do what I do
Mm-hmm.
with my body. And the first one happened when I was really young, and it tore, and I bounced right back and didn't do enough to take care of it, and then the other knee tore, and then that was 2 years later when I was 16. And
Mm-hmm.
then 3 years later, when I was 19, right after Got to Dance, it tore again, the second knee. And so at that moment in my life, like I had the world, I felt like on my shoulders. I just won a TV show. Like I was at the height of my career. I thought, okay, I realized at 19, I was not at the height of my career now. But at that
Yeah.
time, it felt like everything. And then my knee went again, and even the doctor was like, "You need to stop doing this." And obviously, again, that was not an option for me. So I said, "Lucas, you're doing something wrong because you keep tearing your knees. So what are you doing wrong?" kind of thing. And he did repair it the second time. He shouldn't have, because you shouldn't save another meniscus. But he understood how intense my life was, and he was like, "I want to try and give you as much time with this muscle in
Mm-hmm.
your knee other than take it out." But I found a physio who worked at the English National Ballet, and I said, "Look, this is the problem. What's happening?" And she assessed my body, and she said, this, all connected is how you're training wrong, and how you're overdeveloped in the wrong place, and it's all stressing on your knees. And we worked for months, and we retrained my whole body, and I put in the time that, and I'm not very good with
Mm-hmm.
patience, but I put in the time that third time, and I really worked to retrain the right stuff that I needed to, and I listened to my body. And when it was tired, I didn't push it. When it said no, I didn't go past it. Um, Even though there's this perseverance mentality in my head, I started to flip it in a way of like, perseverance long game, not perseverance now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Lucas, if you want to do this for a long time, you got to take care of your body. And that fourth time, I got 5 more years out of two meniscus repairs. And the first time you get a meniscus repair, there's an 85% chance it's going to tear again within the first year. And I got five
Oh
more
wow.
years out of my second one. And that was like unheard of. But it's because I retrained my body and I did it right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then last June it tore again, but I knew that was kind of coming eventually, and they removed it. They removed 90% of my meniscus, and then there was a whole other mental thing about training, because at that point I was kind of done dancing, and then I got asked to do this
Mm-hmm.
West End show last year, and I saw it as a challenge again for myself, so I said yes. So after my fourth surgery, I did 5, 6 months of like retraining, because then it was a mental thing, because
Yeah.
my knee was missing this part of my flesh, and the nerves were telling me that something was wrong, but it wasn't. It was there. So they was wrapping my head around this new normal, which actually took so much longer than re just habilitating something that I had known forever.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been definitely an up and down journey with my injuries. That's been a huge part of my relationship with dance, my relationship with fitness, and something I've had to overcome time and
Mm.
time again.
Something that we haven't spoken about in previous ones, and I'm glad you mentioned the work of physios, because my fiance is a physio, and the physiotherapy is one of those strange ones where a lot of people say physios don't work because they just give you a list of exercises, and then yeah, I don't
That's
notice the
the point.
change. and they don't really
You have
go
to
through
do
with
the
it.
exercise.
So this is the argument, and that's the hardest bit. It's actually
Yes.
when they get given physiotherapy, they think the physio is going to cure me now, and when they realize the physio
No.
is going, no, this is your issue. You need to work on this for a long period of time. That's the hard bit. So your job was to think, like you said, the long goal, and really just focus on that, not the daily exercise. Was just think about the end goal. So is that the advice you'd give someone if they were going through the same kind of thing?
Yeah, I think remember you only have one body. And by my third one, like I was lucky enough that I've been able to have it repaired 3 times. And I think especially if your job is any form of physical activity, like that in itself heightens the importance of taking care of your body. And I think
Mm.
in a world where we always want instant gratification, even from our healthcare and our like physio fix me now, osteo fix me now, crack me into place. Like I found obviously the importance in physiotherapy and doing the work at home. And I think how I did that was exactly looking at I need to be ready for the rest of my life, not be ready for whatever I'm missing now. Because I
Yeah.
actually have a career after this if I wanted. And even this fourth time, like when she started my rehabilitation this fourth, I used the same woman. I went back to her, I said, let's do it again. And she was like, gave me these exercises that were an hour out of my day every day. And when I
Wow.
left the first time, I said, Nat, I can't do an hour every day. Like I said, so if you pick which exercises were most important, what would they be? And she said, do you want to get better in time to do your show? And I said, yeah. And she said, then find the hour. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, you're right. I'll freaking find the hour because you're right. This is
Yeah.
my important thing. And it's just actually making the time for your body. And I was so grateful to have someone who is like a friend now, and she's so hard on me, but in the best way. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but it was about seeing the long game, definitely not the instant gratification.
Awesome. So yeah, it seems like you've got a really good network of people who were mentors or physios around you that now have become your friends. They're really important in terms of your profession. So that's really cool that you've got
Hugely.
those guys who you can pull and really support you. So something that was quite interesting next, I wanted to get your opinions on, because Dance Magazine, I say it says recently released, but it was last year, an article stating that there still is a stigma around boys in dance. Have you yourself experienced that stigma in terms of you being in the dance industry? Could you share any light on your relation, how that's what your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're a boy in dance, I mean, I think it is different now, but up until my generation, probably the one after me as well. But I think if you're a boy in dance, with that comes bullying, and it's just the stigma of men doing feminine things versus women doing
Mm.
uh, masculine things. It was so cool until like I was like 12. My whole elementary school, I had so many guy friends. Everybody thought it was so cool that I danced. And
That's
then
cool.
I hit like junior high and high school, and teenagers are mean, man. Teenagers are mean, and
Mm.
the insecurities fly in everybody, right? And they just want to pick on the person to make themselves bigger. Uh, it gave me thick skin for an industry
Mm.
that has constantly still bullied me in different ways. Obviously, I explained like my body and stuff, but it's fine. Like, and I don't have any residual things about it. Um, it probably stopped me from like coming to terms with my sexuality for a long time as well, because it was so like a negative thing to dance, to be gay, to all these
Mm.
things, right? So it probably kept me quite suppressed for a long time as well. But like I said, I don't think you dance as a male and not deal with some form of that in some capacity, because it just is a stigma that comes with dancing. It is changing. And I have so many guys take my courses, and young male dancers look up to me, and I just try and be uh, the most authentic and proud version of myself that I can, to show them that it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to do this and to be whoever they want to be as well.
It's cool that you've realized that how much of a role model you can be, and that you are, in terms of, because you are in that public image, and you need and people will be going through like this, and it's still there today. So it's cool that you've realised that and you're trying to support people, because I think it's nothing to be ashamed of. And you were probably more athletic and more and quicker and stronger than a lot of these other guys or girls who were saying these things.
Mate. Yes, I am. Yeah. And I know that. I watch my solos back. Like, people don't do what I do. Even I did another podcast the other day, and he was like, what you do is so athletic. I just think athlete when I watch you dance. And it's true. I have like my thighs and my quads are just ginormous, like for jumping and what I do, like, and also my understanding of my body and the physicality is so on point, and I'm so educated in my body because of what I do. So, and I dance freaking masculine despite my sexuality, like, and no one, and I think that whole stigma of relating like femininity as well to sexuality is a whole other conversation, but dance is not a feminine art form. You know, dance can be an extremely masculine art form as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's so many points that this article goes into. So there's one more I wanted to get your opinion on as well. It says it highlights, this is an American university based on research in America. And it says that it's 32% of males have fathers who support them during their dance career, only 32% of males. So is that something that did you have a really supportive father figure or your father or a father figure in your life? And how was your relationship in terms of dance?
Yeah, I mean, that number really surprises me. That's very low. I had an amazing father. He was a dance dad. He was always at the studio. He was building props for all the numbers. He was like the prop dad, dance dad. How he was so supportive. Like, he was like booked extra rehearsals for me. Like made me train outside of the studio. He's always been, I guess, pushing me, and probably the most person in my life. Like, I'll still get messages from him about like videos I post, and he'll be like, I just saw your last video. Just remember, if you want to be the best, post the best. And just like really side things like that. He's so hard on me, but it's because he really like, but then he'll like sit and blubber like a baby when he sees me in the West End, and he's like, I can't believe you're up there. So he's very supportive. I've been very lucky to have a very supportive father, because I know a lot of people don't, but I didn't know it was that low. That's really crazy, actually.
Yeah, so I think that I was really surprised. So I thought there are definitely things that are worth having conversations about. There's 32%, yeah, so that's 2/3 of males in the dance industry saying they don't have supportive male figure or father.
Yeah, so that really shocks me. I think my father always saw it as a sport as well. Like, my dad was an extreme athlete. He played like rugby for Canada. He was a gymnast. He was a freestyle skier. He was like everything. He did amazing things. And so I think he saw it as a sport and something that was like really athletic. And I think that's how he got involved with it with me anyways, was competing with it and feeling like it was something that he could get behind, you know.
That's so cool. I've heard of the term dance mum, but I've never heard of the term dance dad.
Oh, so I had a dance dad for sure.
I've never heard of it. When I first met my now fiance, she would always be like, we were students, and she'd always be at home, and I'd always get there at like, it doesn't matter what time it could be, 11 a.m. or it could be 9 p.m. and she was always watching Dance Mums, some program that was on TV, and it was complete trash in terms of, in my opinion. Yeah, but it was, and I got into it. I'm really into it because she was watching it all the time. But I've never heard of the term dance dad. That's awesome. Is that a proper thing? Is there like loads of dance dads? Could it be a program?
Where I'm from, it is, you know, like we had the prop dads, like they would be at all competitions, bringing the props on stage and off, and like helping all the teachers with things. And they all had like prop dad t-shirts, and my dad was definitely one of them. That show though is crazy. That's not a good representation of my life and my career, but it is entertaining as hell. I watched it as well. I was into it.
So do you reckon we can make a show called Dance Dads and have compete against them?
Figure it out. I'm in. Let's do it.
Yeah, I reckon that would really be me. Because I am as much as like I love getting people into sport myself. I'm quite competitive in myself, and I like to even though I'm no good at any sport, I would still like to try and pretend I am and compete. So I know that if I had a child, I'd be complete dance dad, literally like, you could do this, come on, like motivating them and being there. And that's what I would like to. So it's pretty cool that dance dad is a thing. Yeah.
Exactly. It's
So
very cool.
so what the next part I would like to kind of talk about a bit is the got to dance and winning that. And I can imagine you get quite a lot of questions about that, but there's some things I want to specifically say, because in terms of your experience with managing a few of those things, we've highlighted pressure and support network quite a lot. But the thing that I wanted to look at is, once you win, you've won it. There's a few things that, in terms of things that you have to manage, in terms of emotionally and physically, in terms of the next steps for you. So you mentioned like getting to you thought at the time was your highest level at 19. How did that make you feel? And then when you realized it wasn't, what was that? How did that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, reality shows are very unique beings.
Mm.
And the bubble you live on when you're on one really
Mm.
makes you feel like your life's going to change and that you're famous and this is it. And that's not real at all.
Mm.
But I was on stage with 6,000 people chanting my name, and that just as a dancer, and that doesn't happen, you know. I was in freaking
Yeah.
Kensington Olympia. Like when I'm experiencing that, I'm like, oh my God, my life is changed, right? I'm famous. And then I leave, and my 2 minutes of fame is over, and the next thing's up, right? And when I was on that
Mm.
show, I never planned to be on the show. It just kind of happened. I didn't even audition. They scouted me. I didn't even know what it was when I was on it, and then did the semifinal, and I was like, "What the hell am I on?" So
Wow.
to when I won, I didn't have any infrastructure to support me in any way or shape or form with like the platform that I was given, because I did have one for a second, and I didn't really know what to do with it. And like I talked about the pressure of that, and living up to this standard then, was really high. And I think also this 19-year-old, very young person was made to believe like he was famous and he wasn't. And I chased for 2 years after probably fame, opposed to
Mm.
dance, which is why I got into this and why I loved it, and the passion behind what I did. And I
Mm.
really lost myself and I became severely depressed. Like I had my surgery a couple weeks, I mean, months later, like so I really dropped off the face of the earth and became this nobody again. And I was like, if only I can just get back there, I will be happy, right? And like I said
Mm.
earlier, when you have that outlook, like you're missing everything that's going on around you, and nothing is ever going to make you what you think is that happy as well. Um,
Mm.
and so yeah, it was difficult. The hardest part was after, for sure. Being on the show was hard, but after was really a lot for me as a young person. Like I remember teaching, I did a teaching tour after, and I hated it, and I just hated people coming to take my class just to get a picture with me, because I loved what I did and I wanted to teach, but then I was doing these things so people could get their 5 seconds with me. And I never even made that connection and why I was so unhappy. And it was
Yeah.
because I wasn't doing anything for the right reasons for a really long time. Um, and then 2 years later, I kind of took a trip. Actually, my friend told me to go backpack Australia by myself because I wanted to go. And so I went by myself and I didn't dance for a month and changed my life. And I became human again. And I did things for me. I went skydiving. I like took a car and drove up and down the coast. Like I found my love for life outside of dance and realized that that isn't actually ever going to make me happy if I approach it the way that I was trying to for so long, to be what I thought I should be. Because I was
Mm.
Lukas McFarlane, got to dance winner. I needed to be this thing. Um, and I realized all of that was everything I was making up in my head, to try and yeah, give me a point of reference for how I would be happy, and all that I needed was to be in my moment and enjoy my life a little bit more in regards to what doors it had opened for me. I wasn't even seeing the doors because I was so focused on the one door, but all these doors were open around me, and it wasn't until I kind of went, oh, that my life actually started picking up again, and I started working, but it's because I was doing it for the right reasons, and that was really important.
So looking at that, then, so you're 19 at the time, and then you'd found kind of refound your love for it, and you've had a pretty successful time since then, and you've done so many awesome things. So if we go up to right to the current day and look at the impact of COVID on your profession and your career specifically, um, how do how has this impacted you, and what challenges do you find in terms of work and staying motivated to possibly, like, because your body is your paycheck in a sense. How would you stay motivated? And how are you finding this process?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard. Our whole industry ended. I was actually performing every night in the West End, and I just one day we got an email. It was like it's done, right? And so I decided actually quite quickly to go home to Canada because I could see how it was happening in Europe, and I was like, I don't want to be in my little flat. I could spend this time with my family at home, and maybe utilize this to spend because I see them maybe once a year, twice a year. In my head, it was like a month max. Flash forward 3 months, I'm still home.
Mm.
And I didn't come back till middle of June. So I was there for 3 months, which was crazy. Uh, but in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, there was definitely this panic with that, and no work and no source of working. I taught online a little bit, but that was about it. Uh, and again, this whole idea of like, I have to stay in shape because what if we come back and I have to be performing every night? I was in the best shape of my life just now in February. Like, I can't let myself go. So I'm like swimming every day and running and doing my workouts and stuff like that every morning. And also, I know that also releases endorphins and makes you happy. I took this online happiness course through Yale as well during the COVID time, and it was really interesting. And one of the really big things that makes you happy is 30 minutes of exercise a day. And it's proven time and time again. So I tried to do that for my sanity as well, but it was hard. It was definitely hard. I think we're coming back into like a new normal now, and I'm getting busy again, and we're shooting some like films and TV shows in a very like COVID-esque way.
Yeah.
But it's a new normal, and things are happening. Uh, but what I found for me in those 3 months that was really beneficial was like another reminder, almost like my trip to Australia, but really hit me again was like that I'm okay without my career, and it took, don't get me wrong, it took me like a month to get there, but that there was other things besides dance, and there was other things besides my work, and other ways to be happy and successful and fulfilled and all those things. And that was a beautiful lesson as well. And because my career provides my social aspect of my life, my physical activity aspect of my life, my passion, my like, there's so much that I get from my career. So I was kind of forced to refine those things in different ways and know that I could
Mm-hmm.
and that everybody can, and there's always a way to get up and be physical. There's always a way, to be inspired, to read something, to watch something, to just go out in nature. Like, and that was a
Yeah.
huge, huge, yeah, wake up call for me during this time. And I'm coming back with kind of a fresh attitude towards my career in a way that like I want it again and I don't need it, but I want it, you know?
That's that's really cool, because you do hear so many stories about people who have reacted positively to COVID, and it sounds like you've done exactly the same. When it can be so hard for people, so you're
Oh
kind
yeah.
of
And it was up and
you.
down, but it was good in the end, I think.
Hmm. So yeah, I think well, yeah, thank you for sharing. I think because we nearly 55 minutes now. The time has literally flown. Callum just made us aware. I was like, whoa. So because we like to keep these two around an hour-ish, so I've got two final questions for you
Let's
that
do them.
we ask everyone. So the first one is, if someone's listened to you now and they're feeling pumped, they're feeling fired up to do some physical activity, what can you say, or what would you say to them to get them to actually stand up and go and do something?
That I know without fail that even when you feel like you really don't want to, every single time you finish a session of physical activity, you are so happy you did it because it feels so good. It's scientifically proven. It releases endorphins. You get all of this positive aspects from the chemical reactions that happen in your body from doing physical activity. So just go to that place of after this is done, I'm going to be so happy that I did it because I actually can promise you, you will feel that way. It is scientifically proven.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then the final question today is a inspirational dinner party. It's again another question we ask them all. So what we like to do is get you to think of, and I'll give you my examples. Well, so again, like I did at the beginning, so you can think of three people. So it's you.
Okay.
You've got three seats around your table. These are people. It could be past or present. I said future last time, but that wasn't obviously possible. So past or present, and people who they don't have to be within the world of dance or within your profession. Um, they can be family members. So my three people who inspire me are my nanny Barbs. She's got so many shout outs for this. I tell everyone every time. Nanny Barbs, because my nan just is an angel. She's just means so much to me. And then I've got Frank Lampard, a footballer and now Chelsea manager, because I used to just want to score goals like him. Football is my main sport. And then a guy called Graham Hughes, who travelled around all the United Nations by foot, and he didn't fly, and I just think he would have so many different stories, and I think that those three together, it would just be perfect dinner party. So
Cool.
you have three seats. Who are you going to choose to come to your party?
I knew pretty darn quick. I was surprised at how fast I knew.
Wow.
Although one I feel like is not the right thing to say, but regardless of everything that is like talked about with him, I would still love to meet him because I think he's an artistic genius. So the first one for me is my nan, 100%. I get it. And my nan was the most incredible, intelligent world traveler ever. And I'd love to sit down with her again. I miss her terribly. I would invite Michael Jackson because I've
Mm-hmm.
always been inspired by Michael Jackson and I grew up watching all his videos and he's such an inspiration for me. Um, and then the third one is Gene Kelly because again, he's like a huge inspiration for me and I just would love to meet him, talk with him, feel that charisma. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's a genius. So those three, that'd be a pretty darn cool party for me. Also because my nan would have so much to add into what they would say and I know she would. And I would just say nothing. I would watch those three go at it. It would be so good.
That's so cool. Like there's just something about Nans. They just make that spot. Like they do something. I think it's every time they just do something to make like you think of them straight away. In my
I
opinion,
agree.
it's weird. So
I
yeah,
agree.
thank you very much. If you I've just noticed, and Callum, the producer, like we always manage to get him into the podcast somehow, and he's just wrote Shania Twain surely should be there. So maybe we need like a
Shania
fourth seat.
Twain. Of course. Oh my gosh. She should be there. If we can have a fourth seat, she's definitely invited. Only so I can tell her she's the reason I started dancing. For sure.
Cool. So if we could get you to say my three people to the inspirational dinner party would be, and then say your three people, please.
Okay. My three people at the dinner party, these inspirational people would be my nan, for sure, because she's amazing. Michael Jackson, Gene Kelly, and a fourth seat for Shania Twain because I'm gonna have four.
Cool. Thank you very much. So that's it. Thank you so much for joining us today. That was really fun. I really enjoyed the honesty and just the energy. I think it was really good. I really enjoyed that
Thank
one.
you. Thanks so much for having me. This is such a cool thing that you're doing. I think it's so important for people to have fitness in their life and some form of physical activity. So I think it's a great goal to get people up and doing that. So thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.